Hello and welcome back to a very special 1-year channel anniversary discussion. Now that you're here, you can join me in the comments as we advocate for possibly the least glazed character in fictional history, the weakest hunter of all mankind, Son Jin-Woo. First, we'll be addressing the fraud allegations, and then we'll be moving into his wide array of accomplishments and feats. And we won't be going over the powers of his shadows, as they are initially separate characters and would deserve their own video in the near future. If this video does well, I'll look into making that for you. But without further delay, let's get into it. The first thing you'll hear about this incredibly unpopular character on the internet is that he's super weak and carried by his titular leveling system. And this couldn't be further from the truth, right? Well, in order to be sure, we only need to compare his individual power to the version of him we see later in Season 1 to find out. In the beginning of the series, Jin-Woo is literally the weakest fighter in his entire verse, not counting the non-hunters. This places him at the bottom of this massive hierarchy, which is a perfect example of the pure quality associated with solo leveling's world building. Bonus points for anyone who can comment 5 characters other than Jin-Woo in his summons. But I know what you're thinking. Surely he has earned his new power through hard work, right? Well, not really. There just happened to be a random chance double dungeon that had nothing to do with him, and upon entering, he was powerless to stop several of his party members from being brutally murdered, and even after he managed to figure out the nature of the dungeon, due to his talent with riddles and children's games that never come up again, he still loses a leg and is forced to sacrifice himself so that he could save a girl that he couldn't pull after years of knowing her. And after all this, he was still brutally beaten in seconds by actual statues, and only after whining and begging to survive was he granted his system that automatically saved him from certain death after forcing him to accept its power. Now this may appear to just be his backstory, and some of you may be thinking that after this point he earned his power, and that's definitely true. Almost immediately after waking up from the hospital bed, he began an incredibly grueling training arc that would make even the likes of Goku or Zoro buckle. Right? Oh no, my mistake. He actually began to almost exactly mimic the training regimen of another famously underglazed character. What was his name again? Well, I can't quite remember, but surely it was known for being proportionate to his power level. And what did this super difficult training arc grant him, you might ask? Oh, nothing really. Just the ability to fully heal himself pretty much whenever he wants, access to a magically appearing dungeon, and skill points to make him rise through the ranks of the verse in mere months. And all he needs to do is basic training, and if he fails to do the basic training, the system will still reward him as long as he literally stays alive for a couple minutes. In other words, all Jin-Woo has to do in order to level up is literally be alive and nothing else. But when he does decide to steal his courage and power on into the first instance dungeon, it becomes incredibly clear immediately that the system balances the encounters so that Jin-Woo is always favored to win. And from there on, he is only ever threatened due to his own immense weakness, leading me to believe that anyone relevant in the verse would have been stronger with his powers, which is basically confirmed by his status as the weakest hunter. Shortly later, the system kindly drops him several magic items, bonus skills, and abilities to carry him through the early game until he is gifted his special class, Monarch of Shadows, which then allows the system to carry him even harder, as now he becomes exponentially more powerful with every win due to gaining a creature that could nearly kill him as an ally, in addition to the aforementioned XP from the leveling process. A good way to picture Jin-Woo is if you imagine he's playing Elden Ring 5 in the year 2045, and there's an onboard integrated AI system that automatically gives him all the best gear and spirit summons to make every boss trivial, and just creates random quests to keep his attention and make him feel like he has control, or that he's struggling to accomplish anything. It really does make him seem like a fraud carried by luck if you think about it. But it makes sense when his primary powers is summoning tamed enemies, and the entire world clowned on Sukuna for using that same power for the entire year last year. But at least Jin-Woo has aura, I guess. Not to get into spoilers, but it is later confirmed that he was chosen with the system because he gets consistently beat up due to being weak as hell. Which reminds me, I did say earlier that I was going to go over his feats and accomplishments without the power of the system. So, alright, let's get